call the meeting to order. I apologize for the few-minute delay. I was having a little computer malfunction, but I'm back in business. Nice to see everyone. Up first, we have our consent agenda. That includes our prior minutes from August 6th, as well as a few second read policies. Any discussion, questions, concerns about any of that? Okay, so I'll make a motion then to accept the consent agenda. We'll do that by roll. Miranda?
Aye.
Arlene?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Audrey?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Mary is an aye. Thank you. Lynn, any need to reprioritize the flow of the meeting?
No.
Good. Okay, so that brings us then to our public comment. Looks like we have 2 visitors, no one online, you said, eh, Morgan?
Correct. Somebody's
And
joining.
are both of you interested in speaking for public comment?
Oh, yeah.
You are? And Jared, no, just here to observe? Okay. And your name, sir?
Brian Derry.
Okay, welcome. So, yeah,
And we
I'll,
have Lisa coming in online.
oh, okay, great. Hi, Lisa. All right, Mr. Derry, please feel free to address the board.
I'm here to find out what's going on with the land progress in Sheldon, because I know we voted it down, but it was in the selectmen's minutes that it arose again. So I'm just trying to know why you want the land.
Okay, so I think that's kind of something that Morgan can certainly speak to, because he's been the one involved with the select board and the lawyers, and that is a little more his territory. Morgan, do you think that under your part in the meeting, you could
Sure.
speak to update or clarify? Do you have any specific questions, or you just want him to kind of clarify what the board's process is around the lands?
Or what the purpose of it is. Because
Okay.
I know we voted it down on town meeting day to give you the land, and I see it rose again in the selectmen's minutes.
Yeah, okay,
So I'm just trying to,
yeah,
why did it come back up again?
yeah, totally makes sense. Well, I'm happy to have Morgan address that during his, business update. We'll be getting to that shortly. Anything else that you, okay, great, thank you so much. And are you a resident of Sheldon?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, great. So that brings us now to our school spotlight with Gavin.
Perfect. I had a PowerPoint. Is it able to be pulled up or?
It is about to be pulled up.
Excellent.
We've got fans behind us, just so you know, sound-wise.
I'm used to being surrounded by fans.
Okay. So you can be loud enough for us older folks over here to
I
hear.
got it.
That was a
That was
great
a bad
play, I
one.
caught
I
that.
got it, yeah.
Great play on words.
I never want to pass off an opportunity to be a wise man. Let's see. You'll have to excuse me. I'm a little flushed today because we've been doing a new attendance incentive where we have a monthly raffle for students, and they're entered in based on 5, or basically every week that they have perfect attendance, they're entered into a raffle. And so one of the prizes that was offered was a student could challenge me to a race. And so a 7th grade student did challenge me to the race. The other 2 were like, I'll just take a treat. And she did win hands down. I felt though like the odds against me were so low that if I just made it across the finish line without collapsing, I feel like that was a victory. So
Kudos for going for it.
and I was fully dressed like this as well. I didn't even take off the tie. I loosened it, but I. So then I wanted to talk a little bit about data-informed decision-making through the through professional learning communities and through our MTSS, or multi-tiered system of supports systems that we put in place. And so just a little background knowledge. Professional learning communities are essentially when teachers come together based on shared goals, shared content, shared grade levels, shared students, and they basically work together naming goals, developing goals, and basically 4 big questions guide them, which is, what do we want our students to know? How are we going to assess whether they've learned it? what are we going to do for the students who haven't learned it, and what are we going to do for the students who have learned it in terms of enrichment. And so the whole notion there is just collective efficacy. By coming together as educators, we're a lot stronger than trying to do that independently. And then our MTSS system is essentially how we are responding to students who might be struggling either academically or behaviorally. What kind of levels of support can we put in place to make sure that they're having access to education? So we can move to the next slide. We started off this past year in planning what we're going to do in terms of first looking at where we are at. And so this is our STAR data for literacy from last year, for both literacy and for math. Overall, we broke it down according to special categories. We did see that there were students who were either classified as ethnic minorities or English learners. That's a very, very small percentage of our students, but even so, we wanted to disaggregate the data just to see those students who have disabilities. What can we do to support them? What about students who are ethnic minorities? What about students who are English learners? What about students who are from a low socioeconomic status? We wanted to see where they were in addition to our whole population. One of the things that I will say, if you move to the next slide, is for those specific scores, I apologize, I thought I had that mentioned on my last slide. Those scores of about 40%, I think it was, can you go back a slide? I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. So the 43.8% to 44.6%, although that is nowhere near where we want it to be. We want it to be at 100%. We want all students to be at grade level. At the same time, we're testing proficiency. At the same time, that did mark a growth from the prior year as well, which is something to be celebrated for, but also tells us we need to continue pushing forward to make sure we're supporting all learners and giving them the right supports. If you move to the next slide, for VTCAP Science, I can't share the this past year's science scores just because they're still embargoed, but from the year prior we saw, once again, students at 23 and 25% proficiency, which once again was a call to continue to push forward to make sure that we're supporting those students so that we can get them to the level of proficiency that we need. In terms of attendance, we looked at the percentage of students who had 90% attendance or above. We were at 82%, and with that one, we did see some growth, particularly in our disaggregated categories, of increasing student attendance. Next slide. And then for behavior data, this was probably one of the biggest positive shifts that we had. From my first year in 23-24, we had 1,760 referrals of students who needed to go to the planning room, which meant a considerable loss of instructional time. Through our supports, we were able to decrease that by about 700, or about, I think I calculated that out as about a 60%, it was about 60% of what it was the prior year. In terms of administrative referrals, those would be those higher level referrals that needed to come to us. We once again saw a pretty considerable drop. In terms of days served in school suspension, we went from 156 to 75 days. And then from OSS, there was a slight increase. However, there is a caveat. There were some specific instances that had resulted in a student needing to be off campus for something that was a much bigger issue. So that data is potentially skewed, but overall we did see improvements there.
What is OSS?
Out of school suspension. I'm sorry. The world of education is an alphabet soup of abbreviations, and I sometimes realize, you know what, I've just given someone 7 different abbreviations, and they probably are thinking I'm just naming random letters in the alphabet now.
Please keep asking. Okay.
Gavin, one question. Does the 22 reflect and 34 reflect individuals who had out of school or days spent?
Total days. That's why that final category is a little skewed. Next slide. So, here is where I put some of the summaries, but there was about an 8% increase in number of students testing at proficiency in literacy and reading, which once again is growth. We still want to see more growth though. We saw a 40% decrease in planning room referrals, a 30% decrease in administrative referrals, a 52% decrease in school suspensions, and once again, the out-of-school suspension was skewed by some specific incidents that had happened. So overall, we did see positive movement in the right direction and fairly consistent movement. But we also knew as a school and as a community, we still need to do better. And by coming together through our collective efficacy and sharing our shared knowledge, we believe that we're putting in supports that are going to build on last year's success even further. Next slide. So, one of the things we realized was last year was sort of a reset year. My first year in, we were looking at, it was really my first year of really learning the different supports that we have for our students, the different internal procedures. And so that first year in, I sort of needed to get a very clear idea with the school, with the community, of where we were at and what we needed to do differently. Last year, we came together as a community and we really did sort of hit the reset button. We looked at a lot of processes and procedures that had been in place for years, and we realized, what can we do to make that more effective? Some things we cleared. We just said, you know what, we're going to shift our approach altogether in how we're supporting students. Other things, it was more along the lines of saying, what can we do to clarify these procedures? Because over the years, there had been some fuzziness as to how we were going to respond, and sometimes our response, particularly academically or behaviorally, wasn't always consistent. And so we really went back to really build the structure and the skeletons. This year, we were fortunate to say, okay, we've built some very clear structures, but now it's time to expand from that and really flesh out those systems. And so for PBIS, another abbreviation, Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, what that meant was setting up more proactive ways of addressing student behaviors. We had had the consequences or the intervention side of it pretty well established, but we also knew consequences by themselves are not going to help shape positive behavior. We also needed to have some proactive ways that we can encourage students and really improve our culture to really add the motivation for students to make it easier for them to be successful. In terms of our multi-tiered system of supports, it was just ensuring that our process is faster and more responsive. With any type of system meant to support students, there's going to be those times where you say, you know what, this student probably should have received a higher level of support, either academically or behaviorally, sooner. Why did we not respond sooner? What broke down in the system? What broke down in the communication? Was there a lack of clarity? Was it just that too many people were collecting bits of information and none of us were coming together to really put it all together? In terms of professional learning communities, it means increasing the collective efficacy of our teachers and also an increase in the quality of our universal instruction. Our universal instruction is that first instruction that we're giving to all students. And what can we do to look at that to make sure we're improving that so that more students can access it at that initial level? Next slide. So for the school-wide improvement plan, we narrowed it down to 4 specific goals. And those 4 specific goals include, by the end of the 25-26 school year, the number of students testing at proficient in math will increase by 20%, as evidenced by our benchmark assessments. We want to see in science a 10% increase, as evidenced by our benchmark assessments. In terms of SEL skills, we want to make sure that students are demonstrating proficiency, and it will increase as evidenced by an increase in positive behaviors, through a 10% decrease in planning room or student support center referrals and office referrals, a 25% decrease in in-school and out-of-school suspensions, and a 50% increase in students expressing feelings of proficiency in SEL. That last part we added on because last year I focused mostly on the negative. Like, we wanted to decrease problematic behavior that was causing students to be removed from the classroom. This year, though, I realized, you know what, that's only looking at half of this, and sometimes students might need to access our student support center. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they've done anything wrong, it just means that they were dysregulated and they needed that extra support. And so I wanted to make sure that we were focusing on the positives as well, something for students to work towards. And then finally, proficiency in reading. Once again, we want to increase that total number of students by an additional 20%. Next slide. So, what does that look like? in terms of professional learning communities, this past May, a team of teachers went to Tucson, Arizona, which some of you will remember is actually where I was living before I moved out to Vermont, so it was kind of a homecoming for me. I did not do nearly as much sightseeing as I would have liked to, because it was basically driving to the conference, from the conference, and then eating dinner, and then going to sleep. But we came together as teachers, and we discovered that our current approach for professional learning communities was really what's called a marriage of convenience. We were saying, okay, you know what? You're a math teacher in 3rd and 4th and 5th grade. You're a math teacher in middle school. Congratulations, you're now a PLC group. Oh, UA teachers, we're going to just group you guys together because you don't necessarily fit in these other areas. And we realized that that really wasn't working as an approach, and a lot of times teachers were struggling to find the commonality. So we realized, you know what? Let's give the teachers the option to begin to develop groups based on the specific skills that they want to work on. So let's name the skills, and if you're a 3rd grade ELA teacher and you're a middle school global citizenship teacher and you are a music teacher, but you are all working on building critical thinking skills for students, let's come together and work together based on those shared goals so that there's much more of a buy-in too for the teachers. In addition to that, we developed a guiding coalition from that group of 4 teachers who joined me at the PLC conference. We opened up it opened up to other teachers who are also interested in the work, and we are forming a guiding coalition that is going to meet quarterly to review how our PLC meetings are going, what data is coming in, what learning from each group can we share with the entire community, so that once again we can build our collective efficacy. And if there's things breaking down in those meetings, what can we do as a team to help reshape them? Once again, these groups are going to meet every week. They're going to focus on the 4 big questions of what do we want our students to know, what is the goal, how are we going to assess it, what is the measurement, what is the benchmark we're going to do, and then how are we going to respond to those students who either are not or are getting the instruction. And then we actually met today. We revised it. Instead of 4 to 6 weeks, we're leaning more towards every 6 weeks. The entire school is going to come together. We're going to share out where we are in this process, and then from there we're going to adjust which goals we're moving on to. Or if there's a group that says, hey, you know what, 6 weeks wasn't enough to really get into this goal, we would like to go another cycle in order to continue to do this work. And then, as I mentioned before, we want the groups to be able to share where they're at in the process. So once again, one group who is maybe working on critical thinking won't turn around and say, hey, you know what, now I think we should work on number sense. But if another group has already done that work, not to say that they can't work on that goal as well, but they can at least pool the learning from that other group as well to help inform the work that they're doing. Next slide. So for our multi-tiered system of supports, the first thing is we've done a lot of push into our positive behavior interventions and support, or PBIS, particularly at what's called the Tier 1 or universal instruction. And so this past summer, I went to a lot of conferences this summer. I was very, very tired. This past summer, another group of teachers, including our assistant principal, myself, and a number of very passionate teachers, all went to the BEST conference in Killington, Vermont, where we went through a collective learning strand on universal instruction for positive behavior interventions and supports to once again lean into how we can better support pro-social behavior at the universal level and move towards being more proactive in setting students up for success, as opposed to reactive, which is sort of responding to undesirable behaviors as they happen. One of the biggest things we saw was that we want to make sure that those initial interventions for behavior support are happening in the classroom, and it's not turning into, Mr. Roddy, Gavin is just sitting there, he doesn't want to do any work, I don't know what to do, you go ahead and fix him. Well, as much as I'd like to have a magic wand that I can hover over everyone to make everyone successful, let's work with the teachers to see, okay, before it comes to me, because keep in mind, I can work with this student, But if it's outside of the environment where we're seeing these behaviors, I may only be able to go so far. So let's work together and see what we can do in the classroom when it's happening to respond to it and support those students. Another thing we talked about was we worked with Sheldon over the summer, we are piloting the Behavior Academy, which once again is when we see students who are continuing to receive majors or even minors for the same behaviors, we will have explicit instruction with those students where we can identify what skill gap are these behaviors stemming from, so we can explicitly reteach the students those specific skills to help reshape the behavior and help them choose alternative behaviors. In terms of academics, I've already put it on the calendars. It is set in stone. There's no surprise it's going to be like, oops, I double booked people. We have already scheduled our STAR assessments. The first round is going to be next week. And then 2 weeks after, we're going to give the teachers enough time to get every student tested. 2 weeks after, teachers are going to do data diving, where they're going to look at where their classes are, which specific skills require the most intervention or the most double dosing or even additional support for the students at the individual levels. And then the teachers are actually going to meet with me once they've completed those. So we sit down together and look through the data. In the past, I sort of naively took the book report approach of, here's your assignment, go ahead and turn it in. Well, as much as I like to say, yes, as much as I can look over those documents and then send them emails, it is much better for us to sit down together and look through the data together as well. And once again, if teachers are having trouble understanding the data, we can look through it together and come to some answers. The other thing that is really, really exciting, and I cannot take credit for, or at least only some credit for, because I was part of the principals who helped support this, but we do have a new evaluation system for all of our teachers, which is also going to involve every teacher setting goals for themselves, and that's going to mean increased academic presence to support teachers. And that's also going to be a call to me to make sure that I'm getting into the classrooms to give teachers that real-time feedback to help support them and help ensure that the instruction is, that the teachers are getting support for their instruction. Next slide. In terms of professional development, we were very, okay. I'm like one of those toys that you pull the string and I just talk. So I will be very, very quick. For professional development, we're having weekly intervention meetings for both social emotional learning and academic. We have our SIT teams. This year we have narrowed it down to 3 SIT teams, our community engagement, school culture, and social emotional learning. But we're also having more time for those groups, the heads of those groups, to meet and also collaborate within each other as well. And then finally, targeted PD, based on teacher feedback, based on stakeholder feedback. There were 2 areas that were commonly identified as areas where we needed to become better as a school community. That is an equity in instruction and instructional equity and PBIS. We will have, as opposed to just having a professional development session here or there or here without having any kind of really clear connection, we've actually scheduled our PDs in advance. Dr. Irish, our Director of Instructional Quality, will be joining to help support some of those PDs as well as representatives from Vermont PBIS. Next slide. And that is it. I'm not sure if I have time for questions or not. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, and thank you. I know that this has been intensive work to try to pull all of the connected threads together, and I appreciate that you're using data to guide for so much of this work and the depth that you're getting into in terms of disaggregating that out and using that in your plan forward.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gabby.
This
you
has
so
been
much.
this has been the first year where I felt like, I really feel on top of things. The secret was just putting in the calendar in advance.
Oh boy, you need to go knock on something. Yeah.
Oh gosh, you're right. Knock on wood.
That's right, real.
There's a bookshelf behind you.
Thanks, Gavin. It's
Thank
really
you.
excellent. I mean, I can tell how much thought and time has gone into, all that work, and will continue to evolve. Look forward to hearing more as it progresses. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Morgan, you are up.
Thanks, and I do try to be brief this month because next month and going forward from there, you get to spend a lot of time with me. So the first 3 items on my agenda are all informational. Auditors will be with us later in September. They've done some pre-audit work and there have been no concerns brought forward to date. You're getting your FY26 budget reports sent to you by email. They really won't be useful to look at until you get one in October showing September expenses, because that'll be the first time that we actually pay our teaching staff this year, and so we can kind of get a better idea of where we'll end the year at that point. And again, in October, we'll start looking at your staffing plan for your FY27 budget. 2 quick action items, and these I bring to you every year. VISBIT, which is the Vermont School Board Insurance Trust, which is the cooperative that you belong to provide property insurance and liability insurance to all the schools, is holding its annual meeting on Friday, October 30th. That's in conjunction with the VSBA board meeting, and that's at the Doubletree in Burlington. The Vermont Education Health Initiative is also holding their annual meeting that day in conjunction with that conference. And for each of those meetings, you have the ability either to appoint someone to vote your shares, someone who's going to be there in person, or to give your proxy to vote to the boards of VISBIT and VI. There, for about the last 5 years, there's been nothing very interesting happening at these board meetings. Mary's been there before with a proxy. Lynn has, and can attest to that. Really what they're doing is approving reports and then electing some director seats for the coming 2 or 3 year terms. I'm not sure if anyone from this board is planning on attending. Mary, you've gone in the past.
I'm going.
You are gonna go?
Yep.
So what we would like to see from this board is either a motion to appoint Mary to vote your shares, or a motion to appoint the boards to vote your shares. I don't have a strong feeling on either. It's whether you can get up for the
I know they always
early
make
morning
it
meeting.
at like
It's like
7 in the
7:30,
morning.
yeah.
It's really, it's a little over the top, but I'm happy, I can rally and do it. It's fine.
I'll make a motion for Mary to represent us if she's willing.
And
Thanks.
that motion would read, a motion to appoint Mary Niles as authorized representative to appear and vote on behalf of the board at any and all meetings of the members of the Vermont School Board's Insurance Trust, or any adjournment thereof.
All right, thanks Morgan, thanks Lisa. We'll do that by roll. Miranda,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Michelle, Audrey,
Aye.
John, and Mary's an aye.
And Lisa, if you're so inclined, you could also do a motion to appoint Mary Niles as authorized representative to appear and vote on behalf of the board at any and all meetings of the members of the Vermont Education Health Initiative, or any adjournment thereof.
I make that motion.
Thanks Lisa. We'll do that by roll. Miranda,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Michelle, Audrey,
Aye.
John, Mary's an aye.
There are 4 updates in there on various projects that Vern's been working on. The 2 quickies is that as you came in, you saw that the modulars here are up and open for business. They went up in record time, and I think we had the fire safety walkthrough probably the day before students got there, but they're being used. And the boiler project is also pushing out hot water for the school, so the kitchen staff are very happy about that. Another one that's kind of gone through in record time.
I think Vern is still waiting to see what kind of rebate we're going to get. for that
From
project.
Efficiency Vermont, yes. And I think we got $250,000 for the initial project talked to you in the past, and we're now working with that state agency to recoup that. Any questions on the building projects? Vern is working on another school right now, so could be here. But luckily for you, it's not one of your four. And so, I guess on other, I'll give folks kind of a recap of where we are with Sheldon and the deeds for all the schools, actually. So after Act 46 merged many school districts across the state, Sheldon Town School District, Montgomery Town School District, Bakersfield, Berkshire Town School Districts ceased to exist. NMV took over operations for those schools in 2019, I believe it was. As part of that cleanup process, we are going through and updating all the land records in all the towns. So Montgomery Elementary School, Montgomery Town School District doesn't exist anymore, so we have to update the land records to show that that's NMV that owns that building. That's been done in Montgomery and in Berkshire and in Bakersfield. In Sheldon, the land records there were pretty vague on some of the lines. Much of the land was given by the mill many, many years ago, and it was not really clear to the folks there what was supposed to go with the school and what was supposed to go with the town. There's a Sheldon Town Forest, I'm sure Miranda knows about that. That's pretty clear that that's school property, but the rest of the lines are a little bit vague. Vern and I went and had several meetings with the select board and with the town administrator, and I think the short story from us from a district point of view is, you know, this is for the town to figure out where these lines are. We know we own the school, we know we own some land around the school. There are no pins or records delineating that. We said, we'll have it surveyed, we just want you to tell us what's town and what's school so we can move forward on things like, we've got modulars there, and it would be great if that's gonna be a permanent solution, that we have a permanent building and not trailers for those kids. We know that there's issues with the traffic flow, and we would like to correct that. But we can't move forward on that until we know what's school and what's town. The town, I believe was the town lawyer, suggested that go out to a vote of the town. I'm not really sure why that is. Brian, if you had a dispute with one of your neighbors and the land records weren't clear, I don't think you would put that up to a vote of the town to say where your property line is. So I don't know, I have not been to a select board meeting in quite a long time, or in front of the select board in quite a long time, so I can't speak to what they're doing now. We've asked our lawyer to work with the town's lawyer to figure it out. You know, traffic's an issue at the school. You know, we've got to deal with the PCBs at some points. And we've got, you know, these modulars that we assume are on our land, but we won't know until the lines are actually clear. So that's where things stand right now. The lawyers are hopefully coming to some sort of agreement on that. Once that's done, you know, we've said that we'd help with drawing those lines or pinning those lines so that those are clear going forward. And I would think.
Can you back up though?
Sure.
So you mentioned that the lawyers for Sheldon Town instructed the select board to put it before a vote of taxpayers at the town. And so when was that, and what was the outcome of that vote?
Was a year ago. That was March.
Town meeting day.
Town meeting day. And what was the outcome?
They voted
it
that
down.
down.
What was the question, though?
Right,
Is it
voted
at the
what,
expense of
voted
the
what
I
survey?
don't know
down?
what the question was. I think it was something along the lines of, this is where the line is between the town and the school.
Do
So
you know what the
essentially
question
there's,
was?
The question is real vague.
Yeah.
It says, shall the voters authorize the select board to convert the 11.4 acres of partial on which the Sheldon Elementary School is located to the Northern Mountain Valley Union United School District, described in the memorandum and understanding between the town and the district.
So that's all the land that the school is on. That's how that was worded.
That's that is, the land, some of the athletic fields, that are surrounding the school.
Yeah,
And again, this is one where we said, basically just tell us where the lines are so we know what's ours. It's obviously in your best interest that this gets cleared up. I think it's really in the town's interest to get this cleared up. I think there was some fear among the voters that this was somehow taking something away from Sheldon. And I think given the next round of district mergers that are likely coming, it would kind of behoove the voters there to have something pretty clearly defined for a future when, you know, we might be a district that has 15 schools and are making decisions about where to build for future growth, since our part of the state seems to be still growing.
Whose burden is the expense of the survey? The town or the district?
I mean, we'll try to get them to split it, but we just need to get this done.
Is there other improvement projects that we want to move forward with? Like, they've had a safety issue with traffic backing up for years, and we had, part of this came up because we had a solution to propose, and there's no clarity about whose property it is, so we can't move forward with any improvements until we're really clear. And I think to Morgan's point, if in a future state there is a district operating at a larger scale than this one, and there's ambiguity about who owns that land, that's going to be a barrier in Sheldon. And so it's not to the community's, in my opinion, it's not to the community's best interest to leave that ambiguity. It needs to be very clear what is school and what is town. And no one's trying to take anything from the town, but it needs to be defined exactly where the school is, so we know which we're responsible for maintaining as well.
and is it not even clear whether the footprint of our existing infrastructure is all owned by NMV?
There is a deed that has a section of land, and the conveyance of it was not clear to me reading it. And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to get into the weeds
Yeah.
of that. But where we had this done in the other three towns, it was pretty clear. This is the town, this is the school district. It was not clear in what was conveyed by the mill.
Because to my knowledge, whatever the school sits on is the schools. All the ball fields and all around that belongs to the town. Because out in the front by where the basketball court, tennis court is, a little patch of woods, and that was left for the Sheldon Library, to my knowledge.
And so does the town of Sheldon pay to maintain the athletic fields that are ostensibly theirs? Or do we?
I would have to look it up. It's probably a mix.
Yeah,
And if that's the case, then I would like the select board to say, yeah, the line is gonna cut out wherever you're gonna put the library, but let's just make it clear. And I did not, I don't know if they discussed at their meeting, so I can't speak to that. I'm assuming that the lawyer's been reaching out to them, and so that's why it's moving again.
But my opinion, it'd be just like the field days. You do not own the land, you're out. There's no questions about it. You do not own the land. But if you own the land, we can do what we want. And there was a list of things on the memorandum, and somebody asked the question, is like, these are the things you know. How many are not listed? So I'm just trying to get a feel where this is going.
yeah,
Because if it's coming back to vote, there's been nothing, to my knowledge, about it except for reading the selectmen's minutes.
I think
right.
it'd be interesting to ask the select board members why it went to a vote, because it really is about trying to get clearer land records. So to Morgan's point, that isn't usually solved by public opinion, it's more solved by what were the agreements, right, when the land was divided. So
But
that's the part we're trying to get clear on, because it is just having this vagueness around the property is not good for the district, nor is it good for the town.
But to me, it's land. I don't wanna give up my land. But right, but it's not clear in deed as to what goes
Your-
with who.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You mean your land, the town's land? This isn't your personal
No,
land?
it's the town.
The town's land. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a thorny issue. I can understand, the concerns, and then Lynn and Morgan are right that it'll be hard for the district to know what to invest in, you know, if say there's an expansion down the line. I mean, we're already kind of bursting at the seams there, and we've put in the modulars, but if there's no other land that's owned by the district, we would be hard pressed to invest hundreds of thousands to millions. I mean, that last project was 1.7 million, if I remember, and that was in pre-COVID building costs. So just to say we can't, and there's a lot of uncertainty around where we're heading with the state plan in a much larger merged district potential, then they may not want to invest in a school where we don't own the property. So it'll behoove everyone to come to some sort of agreement that hopefully honors the wishes of the taxpayers of the town and supports the needs of the district as well. Sounds like it's in the realm of the lawyers at this point.
Because that question was brought up at town meeting day, what happens down the road if it conveys to somebody else?
Yeah.
Then all our agreement is like, we're out the door.
Would it be out the door if you got clarity about, it would still be a part of the school district, it would just be a different school district? So if you got clarity now about what's town and what's school district, it wouldn't really make the town part go away. It's not about taking more, it's just about being clear about which is which. So it went from Sheldon Town School District to the Northern Mountain Valley, nothing really changed, other than we've been investing more in the school since it's been in the larger district. It will be the same when we merge into a larger district. It still will be the Sheldon School as part of whatever the new district is. So you wouldn't be losing anything, you would still have that within the town of Sheldon.
I guess it'd be the use of it. Because town meeting is there and they have some other events there to say to the town. But if somebody else owns it, it can say, that's no longer happening here.
So you're saying, you're talking about, you think that the town owns the school building? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the district owns it, but if we convey that, the school part, or whatever, because that was in the memorandum, it's like, because they have town meetings there and they have some fairs there, and they could say, nope, that's no longer happening.
I mean, this district could as well, but no one has ever done that. And I don't understand why a new board would want to do that either. I just don't think that that's a direction that a future board would take, is to close up something to a community.
Right, but
So-
my opinion is, it's property. If you give up your property, you give up the rights to it.
Hear you. So hopefully Morgan's description helped give you some clarity. The next step might be the select board to get some clarity.
They're probably gonna say the same thing as he
Yeah.
did.
I mean, the school physical structure itself currently isn't owned by the town of Sheldon. It's owned by the Northern Mountain Valley Unified Union School District, and it is open for all sorts of community events, as are all of our schools. I mean, these schools are the heart of the communities. So whether it's fairs and craft shows and workshops and taekwondo and dance and community events. So, I mean, certainly this board welcomes the kind of schools being the focal point of community activities, whatever they may be, within the parameters that, you know, are appropriate for a school setting. So I just have no doubt that that will be the case regardless of what the configuration looks like in the future. That is somewhat separate and distinct from the issue with the land, because that seems the sticking point right now, is the vagueness and lack of kind of legal understanding about the boundaries of the land that is preventing us from moving forward with certain projects, because we're not going to invest the resources into building things or rerouting roads for safety issues if we don't actually own that surrounding property. But it seems kind of a separate issue than, like, we would never bar community people from utilizing this structure that all of us as taxpayers across NMV support these buildings to be available not only for educating students, but for kind of inviting community members to be part of whatever activities are taking place. But, you know, it sounds like it's kind of a select board piece with the lawyers, and so I don't know that this board at the moment can do much. I don't know if that's helpful to hear the board's perspective and Morgan's insights.
No, I just read it in the selectmen's minutes that they wanted
Yeah.
to meet back with the board here. So I'm just trying to get a idea
Yeah.
of what's going on, because it's like, we voted it down, so it should have been a null and void deal. Well, once it's come back around again.
Well, I guess it sounds like from what Lynn said is that there is confusion over whether that town vote is the final kind of word around how the legal deed, right?
Well, it didn't provide any more clarity, right? We still need pins and corners to know what's district and what's town. So that's the part that has to get worked out so that we want to position all of our town, all of our schools well for whatever comes next. And that's part of it. We need to be clear on boundaries.
But if there's no set map as to where the boundaries are, we're pretty vague.
But that's what we have to figure out.
Right.
We've got to come to an agreement on that. That's the whole point of, we can't just do this and say
Right.
we're good now, because no one's really good, because no one knows anymore now, right, than they did before the vote. So we still need clarity.
Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful at all. I mean, I hope that we can figure it out. We certainly want to have a sort of a kind of peaceful dialogue with the town and the lawyers, and make sure that, our interests are protected as far as what land we can work with and build on. And I understand that, the Sheldon community clearly has some feelings, or that vote wouldn't have gone that way. So that's, an important information to know. Some of this seems out of the control of the board and is gonna have to be how the lawyers, way above my pay grade. So,
And I will obviously update you as we get more information.
yeah,
I'll reach back out tomorrow and say that the select board's at least talking about it, and see
yeah.
if we've heard anything, but I've not, as of this afternoon, I hadn't heard anything.
We appreciate you coming in though, thank you.
And that's all I got on
All
my.
right, okay, thanks Morgan, appreciate it. Lynn, you're up.
Okay. So, Morgan's gonna take more airtime next month. I'm gonna take a little more this time. In our pre-meet, there was some data that you asked for, Mary, that I've embedded in this slideshow. So I'll go through the first part under personnel. It is really quick this month under personnel. We've done very well. These principals have done very well with hiring. So we have just one new hire, and it's informational. It's informational. We have one new paraeducator in Bakersfield. And although you don't need to take action on Kita, I just want to say, we started an education human services program at Cold Career Center in 2022, I believe. And Kita is a graduate of that program,
Nice.
and she has wanted to go into education, and she now works for us. So it's pretty cool to see the start of that, and now to start seeing kids. There are multiple kids that are coming out of that program, and now work for us. So we're
Lynn-
excited about that.
Lynn, she is just a fantastic person.
She's very happy. I talked to her after I met with you that day, and she's loving it. So
Yep.
it's exciting.
So I have a question. In our latest negotiations with support staff, do we have a way for her to now get courses and possibly move
It
on?
isn't a lot of money, but in the support staff agreement, they have a fixed dollar amount that they can apply for to take courses. And at the same time, there's a learning collaborative. Did we ever get information to you about that?
It's already passed for this year.
Okay.
But I'm gonna work with her, and, because I really wanna see her stay with our district and stay with children. She's just a great person.
There was a pathway last year for paraeducators to get to licensure if they had no degree, and it was a free pathway. So we're hoping that will come back around, but as with a lot of things right now, I suspect that was federally funded, or there's some sort of grant funding around it, so we'll see if that still comes.
Well, in my understanding, CCV is doing something too right now with students to try to get them free credits and free
She's
courses. Is she a good
Yes.
girl?
Yeah.
She's a great kid.
So anyway, there's our hiring update. And we'll jump to open positions. Berkshire has the position that they've had open for years, the halftime health teacher, and you've hired a middle school boys soccer coach. I saw your post, right?
We haven't yet. I still need to put in, we have an applicant though that we,
Okay. I think somebody might have jumped the gun on a Facebook post then. I think you have a local applicant is what I think, but we're getting closer.
and I-
will say.
And I did want to bring up one thing that I know I've spoken to you about as well, Lynn, regarding the health teacher position. I have spoken with our school nurse, who is very, very interested in earning that licensure to potentially be able to then support health instruction at the school as well.
Really nice.
Great.
And he has, I can tell you this, I'm very excited for that. He has a wonderful rapport with the students as well, that it could work very well.
And this is one of those things, I know that there's tension around what's in the education quality standards about ratios related to nursing. And no nurses in the state like what it says, but it gives you a number, I think it's 500, so one nurse per 500 students, and we're well under that in most of our schools, but one solution for that, to still have someone here every day, is to have, if some of those nurses in some of the smaller schools like Berkshire wanted a part-time health position so they could be teaching part-time and still be nursing the
That
other
makes
part of the
so
time.
much
It
sense.
works. It works with what the EQS says, and it could help with the ratio around health education as well.
For
So
sure.
appreciate him for considering doing that.
Absolutely.
So in Sheldon, we're looking for a paraeducator, a math intervention teacher, that's SU grant funded. We'll keep looking there. And we still have the STEAM teacher position open in NMV. We'll jump now at the
Can I ask you a quick question
Sure.
about, is there any possibility to do something, I know it's been hard to find this STEM teacher for the other three
Mhm.
schools. Have we considered any kind of at least like virtual teacher or something that could fill in the gap while we look for, or virtual opportunities while we try to
We
find a
have
person?
not, but we have a really good instructional coach who might have come out of a position like that, and we have Robert Hickey.
Yeah,
So we are working hard to build teacher capacity in those realms, which is,
yeah,
in reality, it is, if we can build teacher skills to weave it into their instructional design, that you have way more leverage than it
Right.
being a separate class.
yeah.
So the hope is that, I mean, if we could find someone great, but at the same time, if we could use our instructional coaches and use Robert Hickey to really kind of push everyone in the system to use some of these tools that are now in our spaces
Yeah.
to really innovate, that would be better for kids.
Yeah,
In terms of
absolutely, of course.
engagement. So that's our plan for right now.
Nice, okay.
So at the supervisor union board meeting last week, I introduced a board monitoring plan. So we're gonna have you click that link if you could. So I've taken the SU board monitoring plan, because you have to be in presenter mode to be able to get to this. I took the SU board monitoring plan and I added to it so that you tonight, as I go through this, will be able to see what the SU board is going to be presented with at their meetings, and I've added a piece about your boards. So this is just a little bit on the next slide about, it's the wrong one. You have the SU one?
Maybe.
I'm gonna share this with you. Do you want to get it through your email?
Email is fine.
Sorry about that. I have two. Gave them the wrong link. There you go.
Wait for the slides.
Yes, you do. I'll talk a little bit while Morgan's pulling that up. So just kind of went over in the board monitoring plan the regularity in which these board meetings happen. So we meet every month in our local district boards for the NMV and ER with the exception of July. And for the FNESU board, we meet with them August, September, October, November, December, January. No meeting in February or March. We reorganize in April. No meeting in May, June, or July. So that board meets a little less frequently than the district boards. So I've focused the board monitoring plan on what our strategic focus is within the organization. So we're really centering, actually that's on the next slide. We have spotlights for each of these board meetings. So there's 2 spotlights generally for our FNESU board, and usually 1 spotlight, like Gavin just did, something the host principal does when the board ends up in those schools. And the idea is, with the board monitoring plan, is to provide the board with opportunities to kind of gauge continuous improvement with our work over time. So as you look at this and think about the plan that I'm about to present, I welcome feedback in the end if you feel like there's something that's missing in what I've laid out. I definitely consider this a draft at this point, and I'm open to feedback. So in the next slide, just a reminder what our 3 board goals are. We've been working on these since 2022. We're really focusing on building academic proficiency. In particular, we're trying to get all students reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. We have some exciting data, growth-related data, that we'll be presenting at the next FNESU meeting to show how many students made a year or more accelerated growth over the last school year, especially in literacy. Student-centered learning is another goal of ours that's really focused around our portrait of a learner, and those indicators being our graduation requirement for the class of 2028, so this year's sophomores. And then social emotional learning, and that's really focusing on growth in core competency areas of self-awareness, self-management, agency and adaptability, social awareness, empathy, relationship skills, collaboration, and responsible decision-making, so purpose over an academic school year. And then some of the other areas that we have to focus on is around regulatory compliance and kind of organizational integrity. So some of the pieces that people don't see, there is a lot of invisible work that I would say lands on our plates at our central office. Some of that has to do with Vermont's education quality standards and meeting all of the expectations and being in compliance with that and the district quality standards, as well as state and federal law and our supervisory union policy. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we are holding on to all of those pieces, that we're making sure that we're meeting our data and reporting timelines, and we're just in compliance with all of those expectations. We also are really focused on fiscal efficiency and efficiently and effectively operating our schools. So we talk about this throughout the year around centralizing some of the functions for more efficient operations. And then school climate and culture, and that a lot falls under school climate and culture, and you all have access to this in your board notes. If you don't, I'll make sure that you do. So on the next slide, it is beginning to lay out what the monitoring plan is for the year. So you can see each month is divided into 2 separate meetings. So you see the highlights for the FNESU board meeting in August, and then what the focus was in the spotlights, what our budget focus was, and what my focus was, and then the same for the district monitoring plan. So let's focus for now on September. So we have planned the SU meeting, which happens I think in 2 weeks. The focus of that meeting will be academic proficiency and school operations. So we'll be providing data around kind of the year in review, so student academic data from last year. And we will get an annual report around human resources, teacher recruitment and retention, and all kinds of other HR-related data. Morgan will be doing a first look at staffing with at that meeting, and I focused on the SU monitoring plan a little more. So then you have the district monitoring plan, and there's some connection to what happened in the previous month at the SU board meeting. So I don't want to go through this and read all of the pieces to you, but I want to give you a minute to kind of look ahead. I'll give you kind of the highlights. I won't review the SU board, but you can see it for your own benefit. So this just kind of gives you an idea that this month there's some school climate and culture work. We just had Berkshire's spotlight, and we're talking about the district monitoring plan, needs-based professional learning, and Act 73. So if you look at next month, we'll be focusing on academic proficiency and school operations, and Morgan will give you your first look at staffing. And you can see I'll have a lot of data for you next month. A lot of that is regulatory data around staffing ratios, class sizes, and some of the student assessment data from the fall assessment. In November, focusing on school culture and climate, you'll get the full expense budget from Morgan, and I'll be focusing my report and data on attendance and family engagement. In December, you will get information about Portrait of a Learner and social emotional learning. Morgan will give you the projected revenue for your district budget, and I'll give you some information around the POL, the Skills for the Future pilot that we're doing, and the Wayfinder district data. In January, it'll be focused on student-centered learning. Morgan will give you your finalized district budgets. We're hoping that you will approve your district budgets at the January meeting. I'll talk with you about meaningful community engagement centered around budget work, and then centralized SU services and updates on Act 73. You can count on us to give updates most every month around Act 73 and what's happening with the legislature. In February, at your district meeting, we'll be focusing on the fiscal efficiency and school operations. You'll get more information about budget community engagement work, semester 2 class sizes, and more on Act 73. In March, it will be school climate and culture and academic proficiency, focusing in on attendance and academic proficiency. In April, regulatory compliance. Morgan will focus on end of the year budget analysis, and that'll be the meeting if we start to have a sense that we have some summer projects that we want to do. We'll get a sense of where we are with that budget. And I'll be bringing back ed quality standards and district quality standards at that point. Would be my intention, is to be able to report out on some of those. I just do want to note that I still don't have, I had told you in May that I would have information about district quality standards because they were at that time supposed to be 2 weeks away, and I still don't have the final draft of that. So I will get it to you as soon as I get it. In June, academic proficiency and Portrait of a Learner, and Morgan will do year-end budget, and I'll just do it a year in review. centered on academic proficiency data. So I know I didn't touch the SU board monitoring plan, and my intention is never to just give you all of the same information at your district boards that I give the SU boards, but to take pieces of that data and maybe break it down a little more so that it's at the district level where I can. So I've tried in this plan to have the SU board be a month ahead of you so that I can then take whatever data we're sharing there and break it down to the district level where it makes sense. So I know that you probably need some time to digest that, but if you could look at that after the meeting, and if you have feedback or wonders about the monitoring plan, if you could email that to me, that would be really helpful. Does anybody have anything that stands out now on that? Okay with me moving on that, Mary?
I beg your pardon.
Do you want me to move on
Yes.
from that now?
Thank you.
Right. These slides don't move very well. So I will say that on the first day of school is generally my favorite day of the school year, and Courtney and I made record time this year. We visited every single school. I think we stepped in every single classroom in the whole supervisory union. We saw most teachers. We saw a lot of kids. I didn't step in all of Sandy's classrooms because she made it really easy for me. She had all the kids in one location out on the playground when I arrived, so that helped me to be very efficient in Montgomery. And we were done in Kevin's school before they called buses. It was the earliest we ever finished. So it was really positive energy in our buildings. Kids were happy, teachers were happy. It was so evident how much work went into our facilities over the summer. Everything was shiny and just ready for learning, ready for students. So we have a short video I'm going to play. It's 3 minutes, and it's adorable. I hope you enjoy it.
I am kind. I'll be your friend. Will you be mine? I can share a smile. I am kind. I am brave. I do it though I feel afraid. I can do the hard things. I am brave. And I am love. I wrap my arms around myself in a great big hug. I am love. I am love. I am wise, solving problems that arise, finding new solutions. I am wise. I am strong. I'm okay when things go wrong. I know I can do it. I am strong. And I am love. I wrap my arms around myself in a great big hug. I am love. I am love. I am love. I am love.
I hope you felt the positive vibe in the
great.
video. And special thanks to Courtney Fletcher. She goes with me and takes all of the pictures and always produces a wonderful video for the community.
Really
to
Always
share.
has great
really
music
does.
choices
Yeah.
for
She
Spends a
everything. It's
lot
like
of
really
time picking out
incredible.
the music. She was very excited. You know when she has it because she comes through the door and she's like, "You gotta hear it. I have it." I have
Yeah,
it."
she's like, great.
I thought that was a great one. So I'll move on to facilities. Vern couldn't be here, but I wanted to share just a few pictures with you. So I know it's dark, or it will be by the time you leave. The mods are here, and you all know that they're here because we still can't use the 2 classrooms that have PCBs in them here. And Gavin had a need for additional space and dividing the classroom out. So those are pictures of the mods coming onto campus and getting set up. That next picture has to do with the new heating system and the pellets here in Berkshire. And I believe the next picture, I did not ask Vern for captions under the pictures, but I'm going to assume that that thing that is red is the boiler part of that pellet project, correct?
Is that a silo for the pellets?
Yes.
Wow, what's the capacity of that thing? It looks huge.
Don't know. Do you know?
That's my
A lot of pellets.
That's
That's what I was gonna say.
That's the farmer in me.
Fits right
I'm
in the
like,
Franklin County,
What's the
yeah.
capacity of that?
I mean, and wood pellets
landscape.
aren't particularly big anyway, so there's a lot
Yeah.
that can fit into them.
Awesome.
Enough that we don't have to worry about heating for a while.
Not gonna run out anytime soon.
Exactly.
Yeah,
If we do, we'll just
bravo.
go back out to the wood and just chop some more, I guess.
I have to say that I'm so thrilled that there's a new heating system here now, because I started as principal in this building in 2006. And when the reins were given to me, the previous principal said, the heating system is on its last leg. Like, you're gonna get a year, maybe 2, and it's 2025, and they went all the way to now. So we got our money's worth out of that last heating system.
Indeed.
Wow.
So, yeah. The next pictures are Bakersfield. A lot happened in Bakersfield. The gym looks fantastic. The floor was refinished, and lots of new red paint in that gym. There's not a picture that shows the stage, but there's been a lot of painting on the stage that really just looks fantastic. It's all black, so it'll be hidden for some of those performances, and just a ton of work that went in. And with these projects, it's important to note that there are some years that some schools have more large projects than others. You can't do all of them at once, but as you can see from the years that have gone by, we have prioritized where the work needs to happen, when the work needs to happen, and everybody has been getting work along the way, for sure. So not as much in Sheldon and Montgomery this year. I think they had more last year, and then we'll see. We'll talk in April about what are the plans for the summer of next year. And that is, again, that's one of the benefits that we've been able to reap from this, having the larger district. I think to Bakersfield, and how many years in that district we talked about fixing that driveway. And I'm not sure if we were a single district, how soon that would have been done, or if it would have been done by now. So we've been able to accomplish a lot facility-wise. So one of the things we talked about, Mary, was reporting out on some of the professional learning that happened over the summer, and a report out on how convocation day went with teachers. So I'm gonna have Martin go to the next slide. I've been fighting with this, the slides all day. Some of my data keeps disappearing. But if you go way to the bottom, Morgan, there's just a note that the people in the picture, actually if you could go up again, represent some of the educators that were honored at convocation. So Todd Marlowe from Richford Junior Senior High School got the FNESU UVM High School Teacher of the Year. We had Brenda Cook from Sheldon Elementary School, the FNESU Support Staff Member of the Year. Brittany Cook, I think no relation to Brenda Cook,
No.
but she is from Montgomery, and she was the FNESU Educator of the Year. And Nathan Bates from Bakersfield got the FNESU UVM Elementary School Teacher of the Year. So it was wonderful to celebrate them and their accomplishments. I've added in the slideshow the description of my convocation address, and I've added in data about the message that you could take a look at. And this comes right back from exit tickets from staff members. This year, for the first time, if you could go to the next slide, it's on a 6-point rubric. I should have said that to begin with. We had a keynote speaker, Mark Natangara, and Mark is someone he's a founding member of AI Vermont, and he was talking about how the world is changing, and both the positives and the negatives of artificial intelligence, and really how the workforce is changing as we're preparing students to enter that future workforce. So there's a synopsis of Mark, or summary of Mark's presentation, and there's the data from the keynote. We also then did an orientation to professional learning with both Gab and Leah, and I'm giving you little screenshots from our SCED tool, which people were able to sign in and choose their selections where there were choices. It's a tool that we're using this year to help us organize professional learning and to be able to give people credit for what they've attended for relicensing. So there's the data related to the overview. You can see that this next slide represents the schedule for the morning. Everybody went to the same things in the morning. That's what the red means in the SCED app, so you can kind of see how the morning was structured. And on the next slide, you can see how the afternoon was structured. So there are cross-district teams that met for a good chunk of time. Paraeducators had two different groups. If you could go up, Morgan, on that one. Paraeducators had two different groups to choose from, so they were able to self-select their professional learning during that time. It is a little tricky to move. If you could go to the next slide now. There was another portion of the afternoon, and there was a school-based checkout that occurred, and John is my witness. The data was there at the start of the meeting. So it was positive in terms of people's perception of feeling like the afternoon was relevant for their work. I'll make sure that when you get it, I put it in a PDF version, and I'll make sure that you get that in your email at the end. In the summer, the curriculum team designed and or orchestrated, I think it was 13 professional learning opportunities for educators. This is a little description. I know you cannot see it completely from where you are now, but these were the topics that were addressed, and all of these are tied in some way to our 3 board goals. We're trying to work on it across the board within the system. And I know our principals are also working on it in their schools, so you can see a count under each of the offerings of how many teachers participated in each of those professional learning opportunities. And we had 58 total people. Some of them probably did more than one, so 58 might not be unique individuals, but 58 different sessions were completed. Any questions on convocation or professional learning? Is that what you were aiming for?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
And now I'm going to talk a little bit about Act 73. This is a lot of information. The links are live in this, so you don't have to go in if you feel like what I'm about to tell you is enough. But I know some of you are more curious about what's happening at the state level. So we know that the Education Transformation Plan passed in the legislature this year. It's now called, it was H454. It is now called Act 73. So I put some links in here for you. The first link will bring you to the full bill, so you can see how the language landed when it was passed. Part of what was required in that bill, in the law now, is that there's a task force that was created, and the task force, you can see the membership on this page. There are legislative members and non-legislative members. The task force has a charge of working between now and December to create, I think, at least 3 district maps about how we could potentially reconfigure school district governance. This is not, there's confusion. Some people are thinking they're talking about closing schools. That's not their task. Their task is to think about larger governance structures. So just like how in Act 46 we went from single town districts to larger districts. We had NMV. And to be honest, that wasn't the first time that redistricting happened. In the 60s, Berkshire had, I think, 13 one-room schoolhouses. And when this school was built, it brought together all of those one-room schoolhouses into a larger school. And many of the towns in our county and around the state had multiple different districts, and they really went based on the neighborhood that you lived in. So lots of small one-room schoolhouses. So this is something that kind of comes up on a fairly regular basis every so many years. So now we're getting a little larger. So the non-legislative members, I just want to point out, as part of what was written into the law. They are representatives that were former superintendents, former school board members, and former business managers or business officials. So I think we have 3 former superintendents, 1 former school board member, and 1 former business official that are on there. Next, I'm just sharing with you some of the tools that they have. This task force has access to these tools, and what is interesting is that they're all public facing. There's a website that you go to, and I linked that on that first page, where you can actually click in, and if you could click into the district builder link, Morgan, so everybody could play around with it. If you wanted to get in there, and if you could zoom in on the map, you know what to do. He's gonna randomly do this, there's no intention behind what he's choosing, but he's gonna pick he's gonna create a district, a random district, by putting together some towns.
Did they use this to create the original 5
The what?
suggested? The original 5 district suggestion, did they use something like this?
Not to my knowledge,
Okay.
no. So Morgan has just created a district, and he can see on the right-hand side, District 1, it's color coordinated, so you can see that turquoise. How many students are in that new district so far, Morgan?
Yeah.
3,800.
So he can play around with this. He can choose, okay, that's District 1. He could click into District 2 and start clicking some other existing school districts and
How
put
many
them
district
together.
options do they give you to work with?
I think you have an infinite number.
Okay.
I don't know about infinite, but you can just keep adding.
Just
You
curious.
just keep adding. So you'll end up, if you play around with it, you know what they're tasked with coming up with districts between 4 and 8,000 as practicable. So people are playing around with the tools. We know that the task force is also playing around with the tools. I put it in there for you to play around with, because once you create a district, if you could click onto your District 1, you can go in there and it'll give you some data on the back end. I think you have to click the word. Where was that? Maybe it's generated. There's some place where you can click on there and it will give you some, there you go, information about the number of students and the grand list values. And there's some other useful data that I cannot actually read.
Does it show actually Vermont's topography, like mountains and boundaries, natural boundaries that we have in Vermont?
I think there is something that you can put over the map that shows that. I saw in the first meeting, and if you go on the website, it's under the Agency of the Administration, not the Agency of Education. On the website, you can see all the videos. They've met twice, and you can see, I think in one of the reports, or one part of that first meeting, they were playing with the topography stuff. So I don't remember how to get there, but
But actually, when you zoom in, it
It's
does
kinda
show
there,
a little.
so you've
Yeah,
got
it's
the
kind of.
roads,
Yep.
and you've got the topography. It's not super easy to see,
But if you go to the site, it's a little more manageable than this little clip of it here. So wanted to share that part with you so that you could see what was there. The next tool that they have is a map called the School Explorer map, and there's a map of the state, and they have little dots that represent where all the schools in the state are located. Larger dots represent larger schools, smaller dots represent smaller schools. So you can go in the School Explorer map and you can pick a school. So what I have done is, are you back in the slideshow? Yeah. So what I've done is I've picked these 4 schools, and so you can see, I know you can't see, but you will when you see the slideshow. It gives you information about the grade levels that they're serving, what year the buildings were constructed in, what's the facility condition index, so it's kind of a measure of how much of its useful life have you utilized in these buildings. It gives you information about enrollment. Now, I just want to note that the data, we're finding that in a lot of the work that's happening at the state level, the data set that they're using is from the 23-24 school year, so there's a lag And so the numbers are not completely accurate. And I think that we've seen some things in 22, 23 as well. So just wanted to note that. There is staffing information that is also in there. It's giving you kind of counts of different staffing categories in each of the buildings. And then you can see, I had told you last spring that the agency pulled class size averages for the first time. And so you could see where that data landed up there, and you could see in red when I reported to you, I think it was last October or November, where we didn't meet the class size expectations. That's highlighted in these schools in red in those data sets. So Sheldon met all of the data sets. Montgomery was under for grade 4. Bakersfield was under for grade 3 and for their middle school, and Berkshire was under for grade 4. So other than that, they met all of the data sets. So you're welcome to click in there and see other information about the schools. That was what I was able to pull out today. Do you want to add anything to this? Okay. Stop me if you have questions. A lot of what I hear when people are talking about this, I think that I'm hearing people, instead of thinking about governance, they're thinking about schools consolidating, because you hear a lot of that's not possible because it's going to be too far from this school to this school. So this was a tool I hadn't actually seen yet. I found it today. It's a school drive time explorer. So you can click on a town, and so these 4 visuals represent our 4 towns. And if you click into it, I think if you just click on one, Morgan, it will make it bigger. So you could set this, and you could say, set the maximum drive time of 15 minutes to where this one school is located. So what I did was I picked, which one are you going to pick?
Berkshire.
Okay, so pick Berkshire and said, what is 15 minutes from Berkshire? And what this tells you is that there are, within a 15-minute drive from Berkshire School, there are 963 students. And it tells you which town those students are from. There's data, if you scroll right there, Morgan, scroll down, where it says 1331, scroll down from there. Yeah, it tells you how many students are in each of those communities. So it's pretty neat. You can move it. You could say, how about 30 minutes, right? Like what does the heat map look like when you say, okay, let's explore how many kids are nearby within a 30-minute drive. So this kind of helps people to understand, but again, this is to people's points about schools, if that is to come up down the road. But it's certainly something that is a common argument. But in terms of district governance, it's really your people that are moving, not your children necessarily, until you get to a place where they might be trying to get greater efficiency with schools. So that's an interesting map that tool you can use. There's also...
What is that, just using Google Map?
Don't know.
I mean, I'd be really curious where they're taking that data from. I mean, are they dirt roads or main roads, or where are you?
I really don't know. I didn't look at the source piece, but I know that there is, do you remember, Morgan, the name of when this first started, there was an agency.
VGIS.
Yes.
Vermont Geographic Information something service.
They did a lot of this background information. Is that right, Lisa? Yeah. So I think they produced a lot of this. So it's an interesting question.
Yeah. Just.
The next piece of information that is on there has to do with facilities. So I dug in a little bit. If you could just touch any one of those to pull it forward. Sure. Okay. Probably doesn't make it a ton better, but this one is Berkshire. And so it's giving you a sense of what we've got going on in Berkshire, where it's giving you cost per square foot, the facility weighted condition score, and that's on a 1 to 5 rubric. I have not dug deeply into that yet, but I think that 5. What did we say we needed to earlier?
I think 5 is the best, and it seems to be looking only at cost of of maintaining your building.
So it gives you a remaining life score of your facility.
Jeez.
It gives you the age, the square footage, and the address. So these are all tools that when they're making their decision, these are tools that they can
A lot of
use.
statistics.
What?
It's a lot of
It is.
statistics.
It is, but we have never had anything like this where you could see it all like this, and you can look anywhere in the state to get that. I think that one of the things that came up a lot during the last legislative session were comments that were centered on supervisory union governance and supervisory district governance. And so I always want to make sure that our boards understand differences because these terms come up regularly. I think that the term supervisory district often gets confused with school district. So you all are a school district. Enosburg Richford is a school district. FNESU is a supervisory union. Okay, so we're the governance structure over those two school districts. MVU is not a supervisory union. They all are they're a supervisory district. They don't have an SU board. They don't have any separate school districts. So this is really a side-by-side comparison of the differences between the two. So a supervisory union has multiple unified union school districts that operate under the SU. Single district structure is the supervisory district. So there's a little bit in here about board representation. So you know there are 3 members from each district on our supervisory union board. The board representation, you know how that works. Well, for us, but for the supervisory union district, they're elected by voters across all towns. Representation is either equal per town or proportional. There are a lot of systems that merged under Act 46 that went with proportional representation. Some went with equal. We went with equal in FNESU. I don't want to say anything more about that. Governance, has to do with how much control each of the boards has. So in the SU board, we have the equal representation oversees the majority of all decisions, to be honest, go through the supervisory union board. Like superintendent, central office, staff, policies, contracts, system level work, mission, vision, goals, SU budget. Your individual school districts manage personnel, district budgets, and school buildings. When you're in a governance structure that's a supervisory district, it's all one. So it all gets handled. You don't have all of the separate boards. Funding, each independent school district in a supervisory union structure, when we build budgets, we build 3 budgets because we have to build an SU budget, we have to build an NMV budget, and we have to build an ER budget. MVU, because they're under a supervisory district, they build one unified budget. And they have one budget vote. Funding, for us, we have the 2 districts that maintain their own separate budget, and then the SU covers those shared services within those budgets. Funding on the other side is that single unified budget to operate all the schools within the entire district. For audits, here, we have to have 3 audits every year, two district audits and an SU audit. MVU or anyone in that structure has 1 comprehensive audit per year. In a supervisory union, we are not allowed as the overarching structure to own property. Our districts can own property, but the SU cannot. So our office is one example. We can't own that building, we have to rent it. Our alternative programs, we cannot own those alternative program buildings, we have to rent them. So it's not the most financially efficient part of structure. That barrier goes away in a supervisory district where they can own their property. The supervisory unions can't borrow money. We don't have the authority to borrow money. The districts can borrow money. We cannot borrow money as a supervisory union. In a supervisory district, the district would have the authority to borrow the money because they're one system. Payroll, in a system, a supervisory union, we run 3 payrolls. because we have to pay each district, and then supervisory union, there's one payroll that happens in a supervisory district. So those are some of the distinct differences between the structures. Do you want to add anything to that, Morgan?
Unless there are questions on it.
Lynn, could I just ask for a clarification? When we merged at different times. Obviously, Sheldon joined us later. There were some votes to merge. So the way we merged was the reason why we remained an SU. Is that correct?
You remained an SU because the voters did not approve a full merger. You wanted to maintain your pre-K 8 operating structure, and you wanted to still be able to tuition your 9-12. If that was something at the time that the voters had agreed upon, we could have been a supervisory district. But people
Right, because I remember that being one of the options, and I just wanted, if anybody's listening, to know why we went down this road. We really didn't have a choice in it. It was what the voters wanted us to do at that point in time, correct?
Yes.
And that's also the reason that MVU was able to move to MVSD, because
Yes.
Swanton, Franklin, and Highgate were all a similar structure, and when they moved Sheldon over to NMV, those three were allowed to merge without an SU.
Right, and I think that's also important for people to understand that we had both K through 8 and K through 12 systems within our SU, and at the time we were not allowed to merge a K through 8 with a K through 12. Whereas, like Morgan just said about MVSD, they were those three smaller towns all had like structures K through 8
They had a union
or
agreement.
K through 6.
They had a union agreement that allowed them, because they're operating a little bit differently, grade level wise, but their union agreement, Sheldon was the only one not in the union agreement that had choice outside of that. So when you say we weren't allowed, we would have been allowed had the voters approved a full merger. But they didn't approve that. We get that question a lot because it often comes up over school choice, because we have within district school choice, and community members have often been frustrated by that. Like, why can't, that's one of our schools too, how come I can't choose that school? And it's complicated to describe for them that that's actually not in your district. It's in our supervisory union, but it's a different district. So we can't have all the benefits of a supervisory district under the SU structure. So I think that it's complicated to fully understand the distinction, so I appreciate the question, Lisa. And I wanted, as we're going to move into further discussions about this, I wanted to make sure that you had that background about the district and the supervisory union differences.
Yeah, this is great. It's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I've probably mentioned this before, but Morgan's kind of a data wizard. So I said to him, I would like you to share some data, or I would like you to represent some data. So you want me to take a crack at describing it, or do you want to jump in here?
You got it.
Okay. So if there's a way to see the whole thing at once, there you go. So if you look at the left and you look at all of that darker purple, that represents all of the students within FNESU. You can see that it's kind of divided into two, where that purple line is that he's pointing to right there. At the top, that represents all of the students in Northern Mountain Valley, that pre-K through 8 operating, 9 through 12 tuitioning community. So if you look at the top part, that represents all of our elementary students. They attend school in our NMV. They don't have choice. They have just within the district choice. That line that starts to turn orange in the middle represents the NMV high school students this is 9-12 tuitioning. So if you track that line down, you can see this top part, Morgan's following it with a cursor. It says they choose to stay in the SU. So of all the students that we pay tuition for, that largest swath of students stays in either Richford or Enosburg. The next largest band below that those are students that choose public schools within the county, within Franklin County. So they're still using our public school system. Just below that, there's a smaller line that represents the number of students who choose other public schools outside of Franklin County. And that smallest line at the bottom are the number of students out of that total number up in that pink range that choose to take their tuition dollars to private schools. So I think, can you say the number and the impact with the changes this year for the private piece?
So for the private schools, I think we've got, and this is last year's data, I think we had 9 kids exercising choice going to private schools. 3 of those kids are in schools that Act 73 has said we as a state are no longer going to fund, and those kids get to stay there till they graduate, but that's going to go away. So there are only 6 kids who are in a private school that's open to them after 4 years from now.
So it gives you some context of where our students go, okay? In ER, as Lisa pointed out, this is a different district. They operate pre-K through 12. So all of those students, you see the elementary band of students in that purple that Morgan's pointing to. And then you see the blue band, those are your 9 through 12 high school students. They do not have broad choice. They do have, we have the inter-district, so they can choose either of our 2 high schools. And Act 127?
Yep.
We had to look up the number because it's so many numbers. Universal high school choice has been in play since I would say the mid-2000s, where kids can apply to attend high school. If they're a non-choice student, they still can apply to attend high school in another public school in Vermont, and if there's room and they're accepted, they can go. So we do have some students, even though they don't have school choice, they can access other schools through applying through that Act 127. So we don't have the data yet to include there about how many students. It's not that many. They're generally just between our 2 high schools. So any reaction to this data? Questions about this data?
The Act 127 for high school choice, that's the lottery program essentially.
Yeah.
And that will persist alongside Act 73, or it's still TBD?
I mean, I heard no discussion of that going away. I don't think I heard that in anything that I listened to. Lisa, did you hear any indication that people would be pushing for the lottery system for high school choice to go away?
I think that's too much in the weeds to even contemplate right now. I think things like that are going to stay the same for a little bit. I haven't heard anybody talk about it.
Yeah.
Thanks. And are the Vermont academies eligible under the Act 127?
No.
Okay.
It is public school choice. So this really is, so when we think about governance and we think about districts, a lot of times the reasons that you have a district have to do with the choice element of it, and that's to Lisa's point, when we made the decisions in our communities during Act 46, it was not wanting to give up the broader choice. So I understand that, I understand the historical context of it, and at the same time, I look at the data and I look at all the students on the left, so the measure of that line is kind of the quantity of students that we have within the system, and we track it out to the number of students that are impacted by this, and even the number of students that are eligible to begin with is so small compared to the rest of the students that we have in our system. So you have students that are graduating from these 4 schools in that orange that have a choice, and students that don't on the ER side. So it's a system that has perpetuated different opportunities for different students depending on their zip code. So I wanted you to have that information because I think that throughout this process will come up in discussions. So. The last thing I have for you, just to give you context, is that task force has a final report template that they have on their website. So as they're working, their first meeting I think was a couple of hours, and now they've shifted to much longer meetings, and I think they have something like 8 meetings left. Does that make sense to you? It's close to 8 meetings. They're going to come out at the end, and they're going to fill in the report, so you can see what they're really centered on is some of the topics. If you look under number 4, is about reducing cost, quality. Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting to the next slide. Efficiency, the capacity, and fairness and equity. Community voice is something that has come up in their conversations. And then challenges and trade-offs, and really defining what other things need to happen in order for this plan to potentially come to fruition. So this task force does not choose the districts. They make recommendations to the legislature, who will then look at the 3, consider them, maybe decide on one of those, or maybe do something totally different. But that's where we are in Act 73 right now. So there's a lot of moving parts.
And do you think, Lynn, that the task force is kind of taking into account some of the inherent efficiencies of an SD structure versus an SU structure? And do you think that they would uniformly kind of go with one model over the other across the state so that it is uniform, equitable, the same? Or do you foresee them maintaining SU structure for some systems and SD structure for others? Or is it just way too premature to even try to figure that out?
I wouldn't have a way of guessing. I know that in their charge, at least one of their maps has to consider a supervisory union structure. I will say that the other thing with a supervisory union structure, when you think about, like we talked about all of the audits, all of the payrolls, like to be honest, I love coming and meeting with this board, and it takes me hours to prepare, to meet with Mary, to do our pre-meeting, to prepare for this meeting, and then I do it again for the SU, and we meet with Mary, we do the pre-meeting, and then I do it again for the ER. And there are some of my colleagues that have 17 board meetings a month. And so when you think about the redundancy and that time that you're spending on that you're not working with principals or in schools, and you think about all those audits and all those payrolls, and some of them do not have unified contracts even, so all of the negotiation pieces that they have, there's a lot of board members, and I think that I'll just be frank, there's, I think not everyone thinks about efficiencies the way that I maybe think about efficiencies and, duplications of effort. I think that there are people that are really strong advocates of supervisory unions and maintaining lots of local boards. And then there are others that are looking at efficiency in a really different way. And I think there are just differences of opinions in terms of, a lot of times in my mind, I think it comes down to even like board representation and the number of adults that are still in board seats as one thing that I think people are really struggling with. And I think that the other piece to remember is that wherever you land, just like in Act 46, when they had to figure out what does representation look like in the new district board, whatever the new system looks like, there will be representation on those new district boards. So it isn't that there's absolutely no voice, it just looks different than what you have now. I don't have anything to do.
Thank you.
That is all I have for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Lynn. All right, so we are moving on to our principal reports. So Kevin, you are up.
Well, thank you. It's been a fantastic start to the school year. As gosh, as the, Lynn pointed out, the good vibes in the building, right? And so the positivity from our students, positivity from our faculty has been just admirable. One thing I'll just share real quickly is we're starting up something with our middle school where they have a voice in the classes that they're taking for their unified arts, meaning STEAM and art and music. They have phys ed every day. I know that makes Arlene happy, so that's why I do it. And anyways, so they have a voice in that. So at the end of last year, they all chose out of around 9 options in both music and art. They chose where they rated it 1 through 9, and I made their top 4 choices come into their school year. So it's been a great beginning of the school year for those teachers. I talked to them both today, and they're really enjoying that new model. So, yep, and the kids seem to be enjoying it as well. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Gavin, do you have anything else that you'd like to highlight from your
Well,
report?
I have 2 things potentially. The first thing I definitely want to show you guys, and that is we do our staff member of the month. And this month, we gave it to, or we awarded it to our pre-K teacher, Karen Carpenter. Now, she normally is not at our whole school morning meeting, so I had to be a little devious to get her down there without giving away the secret. And I think I was a little too devious because I sent a staff member up and said, go cover for her class and say, Mr. Rodney needs to speak to her right away in the cafe or in the gym. And she came in saying, I thought there was an emergency. I was like, then the staff member was like, I told her you needed to see her right away. I was like, ugh, that may have backfired a little, but I think once her pulse rate settled, she was feeling a lot better. The only other thing I wanted to let you know is I did get a video of the race I had with the student. I think I'm happy to show it, but it's a very long 1 minute that you watch me limping across a finish line. So for the sake of time and for my own dignity, I might hold back on that as well, unless there's a strong desire for me to screen it for you guys.
I think you can hold that one.
I appreciate that.
Although you could show it to me offline.
I was gonna say.
Great, thanks so much, Gavin. Sandy?
Of course, I'm going to ditto what everyone else has said about just the positivity and excitement coming back into school, and everything's bright and shiny and it's wonderful. But just to add to some extra joy, seeing the 3-year-olds come into the building on Tuesday, 14 of them, first day of school. It was so much fun just to be in there and kind of sit on the floor with them and get to know them. In this particular year, we happen to have probably half of them are siblings of other students that are already there. So, we've been seeing them since they were born pretty much, and it's just pretty exciting.
Awesome, thank you so much, Sandy.
Sandy, can I interrupt and tell you that one of
Yes.
the 3-year-olds is my granddaughter?
I told her I knew her grandmother, so yes, I absolutely know. She's a beautiful young lady. Beautiful.
She loved it.
Yeah, she
loved
was
it.
fantastic, smiling the whole time.
Awesome,
Yeah.
love that.
That was pretty cool.
Sheldon, I'm going to focus on today as being the highlight I wanted to share. We had our first all-school assembly, and after we do those, we do book buddies. So big kid classrooms are matched with little kid classrooms, and they read together. And so I got to go around to every single space today and see all the older kids reading with the little kids and vice versa. And it was just that. I know the first day of school is a great day, and I agree it's one of my favorites, but book buddy days, and we have about 9 a year, are my favorite days ever in our building. So it was wonderful.
Excellent,
Yeah.
So there
wonderful, thank you.
is an action needed. Both Sandy and Kevin brought handbooks for board approval.
Please.
Right, yeah, totally. Can I make a dual motion, or one motion for both of
Sure.
those? All right, so I'll make that motion to approve the remaining 2 handbooks. We'll do that by roll. Miranda?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Arlene?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Audrey?
Aye.
John? Mary's an aye. Great, okay. Awesome, well, so that brings us to, board business. We do have ongoing kind of slightly open seat for Emily's SU board seat. She's willing to continue on for now, but I just wanted to put it out there again that if someone felt called to that role, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I know it's a lot to add another board meeting and but there are fewer over the course of a year than there are for our NMB meetings. So she's continuing on for now, but if you feel the pull, let me know, please. So our next meeting will be in Montgomery on October 1st. Anything else that anyone would like to discuss under board business tonight? Okay, great. Well, thank you all so much for your time. I'll make a motion then to adjourn. We'll do that by roll. Miranda?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Arlene?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Audrey? Aye. John? Mary's an aye. Thank you all so much. Drive safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Now I have to-